Welcome to the thrilling world of Security Squawk, where we explore cybersecurity. Guiding you through online threats, we'll aid you in understanding safety protocols and trends. Meet our gurus, Bryan from Exact IT, Reginald from Arc Solvers, and Randy from Tech Rescue. Together, we'll delve into current events and hot cybersecurity topics, helping you comprehend their impact. Stay informed, stay secure. Security Squawk, the business of cybersecurity. Buckle up, let's dive in.
Welcome back, everyone, to this Security Squawk podcast. I'm Bryan Hornung here with Randy Bryan and Reginald Andre. And today we've got a packed show, gentlemen. We're going to dissect a series of high-profile ransomware incidents from a CBS affiliate hit by the Lynx gang to Hitachi Vantara's data center, which was taken offline. Plus a disturbing case of a cybersecurity CEO allegedly infecting hospital systems. We'll explore why simulation training and the rise of agentic AI are reshaping how we defend against these threats. And we're going to even look at Microsoft's move to make all new accounts passwordless by default, guys. In our follow-up segment, we're going to revisit the M&S and co-op retail hacks and the scourge of phony IT help desk calls that are following that attack, and then a follow-up on the massive Cobb County breach and a critical ransomware strike on dialysis provider Ransomware. All updates coming for you in our following up segment. Remember, we don't run ads, so if you find value in today's episode, please like, subscribe, share. Help us grow the show organically any way you can. Anything you want to add there, guys?
No, just a pleasant good morning.
Yes, sir. All right, here we go. Let's kick off our ransomware topics, guys, with some unexpected targets, I guess, right? Who would ever think that a news station or a local news station would be reporting their own ransomware attack? But that appears what is happening here with the CBS affiliate in Chattanooga, Tennessee, which was allegedly compromised by the Lynx ransomware gang. And that gang has claimed nearly 200 victims to date, guys, stealing internal employee agreements and threatening publication unless paid. Now everybody in Chattanooga is going to know what their local newscaster is paid. So Randy, broadcast stations, like I mentioned, aren't typical ransomware targets. So what does this tell us about how threat actors are selecting their victims?
Well, so first off, I think it's a pray and spray or spray and pray, where they try to cast their net as wide as they can. It appears these guys are a ransomware as a service. I don't know if they're writing the code themselves, but if they're not, then more so the whole spray and pray thing. But also, a news station has a sense of urgency to it. So, or a CBS affiliate. It's like news, local programming, whatever. There's a sense of urgency to it because they can't be down, right? Because that's where they make their money, is by broadcasting and running ads and all this jazz. So if they're down, then they're going to have a sense of urgency to get back up. So, whether or not they targeted this group's, like purposely, it checks some of the boxes for what might be a good, quote unquote, good victim for them.
Thank you, Randy. So Andre,
Yeah.
from our experience on the show talking about these things and your experience working there at Arc Solvers and dealing with ransomware incidents, how should media organizations like this adjust their incident response playbooks for what's happening here?
Yeah, so even before we get to the incident response, we got to make sure that we prepare. And one of the things in preparing, so when you think of a media company, they're not a hospital. So outside of employee data, social security numbers and things like that, they don't have per se sensitive information. Now, maybe they have internal, they may have sources that may give them information that they're, as they're writing their news articles, or they may have a database and things like that. But this shows you that even something as sensitive as payroll information, or how much an employee gets paid, maybe the new newscaster is getting paid more than the guy who was there for 10 years. So here we see that this Lynx ransomware group is going to hit them wherever it hurts. So if you're a hospital, you're a school, let PII information. But in this case, you're seeing that they're now, they said, okay, well, the payroll information is somewhere where it's going to hurt. So we're going to go ahead and release this information. So just going back to, if you have something that is sensitive that you don't want the world to see, especially if it's an internal document like, agreements, encrypt it, make it so that even if they do end up getting it, the bad guy gets it, it's going to be 1 and 0s and they won't be able to get it. And I think if you plan, that will make your incident response much better, because you won't be in this situation where, now you have to pay up, or it's going to be out in the open for everyone.
Yeah, I think both of y'all had really good insights there on this attack. It just, for me, it proves that nobody's off the list of who could be attacked. I mean, it's pretty simple. They'll go after anybody. If you operate a business, you have employees, you have money, they are coming after you, and they are coming after you hard. As guys, Hitachi Vantara, this enterprise giant, as they're being described, their main data center was taken offline for at least 5 days after Akira decided to attack them. There was a global service disruption, guys, and it's an estimated that there's around 57 billion in ransomware costs in this industry alone, in this particular industry of IT, that ransomware has disrupted operations to the tune of 57 billion. So when you see these data centers, these cloud services, these IT companies, Randy, when you see these networks go dark, what containment and recovery steps, or what goes through your mind as an incident responder when you hear that a data center is going down and it's your data center that houses one of your main applications in your business? What do you do? It's not your business. It's being attacked, right? It's a third party. So but as businesses need to realize, when you're a third party organization and partners go down, you have to implement your own incident response plans, even though you're not being attacked, because if a major system is down, you can't do work. So what does that really look like for a business, and what should companies consider as part of their incident response plan around these cloud services that might impact their business in some way?
Right. Well, there's a lot to unpack here. I'll do my best to answer your questions here. So these guys have virtual machines that apparently, even though the data center is offline, apparently if you have self-hosting, that apparently you can connect to it. But, that said, stepping back a step and like answering what you were saying. So if your VM is in Hitachi Vantara and you need that to do business, your business is at risk of, basically not being able to work, because you're totally reliant on this third party. I would suggest, going into something like this, that you would have some kind of an off-site backup, if you will, where you're not reliant 100% on them. But that's kind of where it puts us, though. Like, a ton of businesses rely, let's say, on 365. 365 is all cloud-based. It's all handled by Microsoft. We all think, oh, they're too big to bring down. But what if they got hit by one and we couldn't answer? We couldn't do anything with our email. We couldn't do anything with our files. That's a very real issue that needs to at least be considered as part of your disaster recovery planning. what do you do if all this stuff is offline? Can you still even do business? Do you have a way back? Do you have another platform that you could possibly use? All those questions. I don't know if I answered your question. I'm probably asked.
No, you did in terms of operational capability. And then I don't know if you want to take this or Andre, but another question that I think people need to consider as part of this, and hopefully people are taking notes, but the data, right? Your operational functionality, may take a hit, but you also have to consider what data is in these cloud platforms and what you're storing there, because you might have a PHI or PII situation on your hands where you have to report that customer information has been compromised in some way as a result of this. So that, I believe, also needs to be part of your incident response plan. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, just going back to the first part is in your own personal business incident response plan, you have to assume that the provider's incident response plan is that if something is going bad on their side, more than likely at some point they're going to go ahead and just unplug everything and just put you down offline complete. So kind of alluding to what Randy was saying as well, is your incident response plan has to just assume that Microsoft services gets turned off. And now what do you do? How do you email your clients? How do you communicate via Teams? Or maybe you have a scheduler in your calendar and now all of a sudden it's totally, if you're looking online and now it's offline.
You guys have any thoughts on, and I'm asking this question because I want to bring awareness to what's kind of happening out there, but what are your thoughts on, so you have a vendor, you have this organization that you work with, you more than likely pay money to use a service that they provide to you, and they have an incident, right? So what are your thoughts on how much or what responsibility that organization, the organization who was attacked, to help their partners, with their side of the incident response, right? So informing customers are things that we see kind of maybe fall by the wayside in some of these situations where, really the organization who was attacked is the best to provide the communication, but they don't, and they kind of put it on to their customers to then inform their customers whose data was ultimately compromised, right? So what are your thoughts on the role that this organization who was attacked should play in the entire process of incident response, and as part of that, the communication?
Well, definitely if they're silent during this whole time and not giving a lot of information, they're not going to have customers for a long time. However, I don't think it's practical for, let's just say this company has, tens of thousands of employees to like we saw that with Rackspace, right? When Rackspace then had to get Microsoft to help them with the call center because they needed help to move people's, exchange emails from the Rackspace back to Microsoft. So I don't think these companies specifically have the manpower, but I think it's just the communication, even if it's every 3 hours, an update on Twitter or, wherever, just to say, hey, this is what's happening. This is what you can do, or just tell the truth. Like this,
Yep.
This is where we are. But I don't think it's going to be their responsibility to help their customer in that aspect. I think we've even seen what was it with the schools, right? With what's it called, Power Schools or something, where the schools wanted that provider to send out the emails to say, hey, little Johnny's got his social security out there. And they were like, no, that's your responsibility.
Yeah. I just want to piggyback off that because they're going to need to be kind of three things I'm thinking of: proactive with their communication, transparent with their communication. Obviously, this is a big corporation. I'm not telling them what to do, but they're going to need to run everything by their lawyers. We've seen where same situation, two different companies. One company says A, one company says B. Company B is now liable for all kinds of extra lawsuits just because of how they said it. So they need to run it by their lawyers. They also need to think about when it comes to helping the customers. I was just thinking this. One day there's going to be a lawsuit, probably in front of, most likely, probably in front of a jury, and they need to be acting in such a way that they can defend themselves in front of a jury. If a lawyer gets up there and says, well, they offered zero help, they were totally silent, they weren't transparent, our customers lost a combined $100 million in business because they were freaking out, moving their platforms around and this and that, like they won't have a leg to stand on. So they're just going to have to be like proactive, help as much as they can, be transparent, make sure their lawyers are involved with everything that they say. And like you said, Andre, even if they update every 3 hours, wouldn't be a bad idea. None of us are going to disparage them because they had a cybersecurity attack. We're going to disparage them because of how they handled it and how they came out, right? Because we all know that it's just a matter of time for everybody.
No, good point. Definitely agree with that. Good points. I think it's really important for people to understand that right now, the landscape, if you're a third-party organization that you work with gets hit, there's not a lot of, we're not seeing a lot of instances where you're getting a lot of support. So just be prepared for that and understand that that's the landscape that we're kind of in right now, is you're going to be left holding the bag with a lot of this stuff until things change. I don't know why, but this website is making my computer go like crazy. I love when this happens. All right. So anyway, trying to move on to the next one. So talking about AI, guys, moving into more cybersecurity trends and insights that we're seeing out there, because that's kind of it for ransomware attacks. But new era of AI is emerging, and it's more autonomous than ever before. And saying that a recent analysis shows that ransomware attack simulations foster a survival time objective mindset, focusing teams on metrics like time to detect, respond, and recover by reenacting breach scenarios based on real incidents. So have you guys seen any of these tools or these AI tools that are actually helping companies with things like tabletop exercises, incident response? What are your thoughts on this stuff? Do you think it works? Do you think it doesn't work?
I personally haven't. No, I think. I personally haven't seen it, but right now when we're doing our tabletop exercises, it's a long process. Obviously, it's a manual process. It's a conversation that we're having to have with the CEO, different department heads, and really to get them thinking. So if this can help speed up the process, as far as like, okay, what happens if you're going back to 365 is down, and then now we can kind of then give all the different scenarios based on what it knows about the company, and also give suggestions, and then also spit out the playbook as far as, okay, this is what's going to need to be done when this happens. And then it can even look at blind spots and to say, well, have you thought of this? And I think this is great. I personally haven't seen any of the tools yet.
Yeah, same here. I've not personally seen it, but it's something that I've been dreaming about, Bryan, because we need to implement, with an asterisk, okay? But we need to implement AI as much as we can to help us. It's going to be part of that cat and mouse game, and staying ahead of the bad guys. But then it sounds like I'm saying something right out of Terminator 3, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's both. I mean, people have to understand, right, that cyber criminals are using AI to do their thing, and organizations have to look at maybe some of the areas that they're apprehensive, or maybe they don't spend as much time as they should on. And I can guarantee that most organizations out there don't spend enough time on things like incident response planning. So if you can use AI to help you, not only, one of the things I think AI can do for people is uncover blind spots or help them look at things from a different perspective, or give them a new perspective on things. It can absolutely do that. And I think that, a good use of AI in this scenario is those types of things for tabletops. So that's one way that we're seeing. I thought it was an interesting way, guys, that we're seeing AI used in cybersecurity to help people better defend and protect their organizations.
Can I? Sorry.
What's that?
Well, I was going to add one thought. So
Yep.
The scary thought here, though, is that if you can get an AI to do a tabletop, then you could get an AI to do a malware attack and just call it a tabletop and say, oh, hey, we're doing a tabletop on this organization. Let's roll. It's like, okay, now deploying malware.
Well, that's a great point, right? These are pitfalls that organizations should consider or avoid when considering doing this stuff. But we're going to talk about in a minute what you just said, but in the human form.
Right.
So just like humans could do the same thing you just described, Randy. So yeah, you got to kind of vet your tools and vet your people and do background checks and make sure you know what you're running before you actually run it.
Well,
go ahead.
Well, my concern is this tool or tools that do tabletop falling in the hands of the wrong people,
right,
who then use it for malicious purposes.
Correct.
So,
but you could also, again, we saw it with people hiring who they thought were IT people in their organization, but they were actually North Korean hackers. Like these things can happen in other ways, right? That where people can infiltrate your organization in some way, right? So, Andre, any thoughts cross your mind around pitfalls that organizations should consider or potentially avoid when using AI for tabletop exercises and ransomware simulations, or maybe business email compromise simulations? Any thoughts there?
Well, if this company this AI that you're giving all this information to gets compromised, you just basically gave the bad guy your entire playbook.
Well, yeah, right. Or what you've been doing, where you're at. Yeah, good point.
What tools you have,
Yeah, great point. So be careful using AI for these things, right? Just across the board. That's the name. That's the advice across the board, no matter what you're doing, if it's for anything, right? Tabletop exercises, research. Careful what tools you use. Understand what kind of security they have behind the scenes. Some of these AI companies, right, guys, are starting to answer the call with some of this stuff, which if you want to know more about that, check out our new podcast, the Scale AI podcast, which is coming to a podcasting platform and streaming platform to you very soon. So let's get into that, guys. I kind of hinted at it when we talked on the last segment here, but this is the topic that I was referring to, which is a human who is actually causing havoc on organizations when they really should be helping them. And this is I know, Randy, you're going to get annoyed when you read this and talk about this. And I have lots of feelings about this too. But, insider threat case, CEO of a company called Veritaco, so I'm reading it, Jeffrey Bowie.
First warning sign.
Yeah, right.
Bryan, are you hungry again?
I am starving. And is charged with installing malware on hospital workstations, capturing screenshots every 20 minutes on August 6, 2024, though no patient data was accessed. Then thanks to rapid containment. So what, I'll throw the first question to both of you and whoever wants to answer, but what can organizations do in this situation? You hire what you believe is a trusted partner, and they turn on you and decide to, install malware on all your systems that takes screenshots every 20 minutes.
I mean, a couple things I'm thinking of. So first off, if this hospital just hired this IT firm, that's really awful. But your IT firm should be obviously a verifiable IT firm that can be held accountable, because if something like this happens, people need to go to jail to deter other people from doing it. That'd be my first thought. My second thought would be, let's say you're an IT firm, because this is a very real thing. It's called insider threat, right? Or where they take advantage of people on the inside, or when somebody goes rogue on the inside. And you need to handle everything that you set up, what we call zero trust. And you think of it from a zero trust environment where you're limiting access that people have. So, your IT company, you don't give everything to every single person in the IT company, in case one of them gets compromised, or they willingly go rogue. So, man, there's a lot to unpack here, and I'm just basically dumping out of my brain. I'd love to hear your all's thoughts.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to say this is an isolated incident. I'm looking at this guy's, I just did a Google search on him, and he must have not gotten paid, or his contract was expired, and now he's going to do some spite or something. But I don't, unless this guy was actually a spy from another country, like a spy or something. I don't know who in their right mind would do this, not thinking that they're going to get caught.
Right. When I first read it, I thought it was fake news because of the name of the company.
So I'm going through kind of as you guys are talking. There's a couple of details I want to point out. Number one is this guy they didn't work for the hospital. He was there visiting a family member who was undergoing a surgery, and he needed to use a computer at the hospital. So he was wandering around the hospital, went into a room, and so I guess they correlated when the malware was installed on a certain system and a camera that saw a guy go into a room who shouldn't have been in a room, who was around the same time malware was installed. And, when they questioned him about it, he claimed that he just needed to use the computer to do something because a family member was undergoing surgery. But forensics were able to prove that he installed malware on that system. And then from there, he was able to do other things.
Okay.
So that's the deal. I mean, so it's interesting. So he just walked in the hospital, sat down, and thought he could infect them, I guess. His cybersecurity business might not have been doing too well. Andre, I'm disappointed you don't have the financials already.
No. I mean, I thought he had other cybersecurity positions in other companies, but I mean, this shows how many times do we go places where we see that the login is open. There was no zero trust, assuming he plugged in a USB flash drive, or he was able to execute a program, shows that this hospital had very lack cybersecurity.
Not great, right? They could have didn't have to go that far if they had some other protections in place. I guess that's the way you could say it, right? Mm-hmm. All right, guys. Any other thoughts?
Well, you definitely on this. You definitely, you can't just secure for the remote. You can't just secure for the phishing attack. You got to secure for if somebody just opens up a prompt and starts entering scripts or whatever, right?
Yes, sir. All right, so guys, this has been talked about for a long time now. I remember I was at an event maybe 5 years ago, and a guy from Microsoft stood in front of the room and said Microsoft's trying to get rid of passwords completely. And we kind of looked at him like, how the heck are you going to do that? So, I mean, I guess if you live in the M365 ecosystem, this isn't, this might not be anything earth-shattering or new to you, but if you don't live there, this might be something that interests you, or it might be something that you see other providers like Google move to. But Microsoft is making all new accounts passwordless by default, guys, pushing passkeys and biometric authentication to reduce password use by over 20% in early trials, and positioning passkeys as the future of secure sign-in. So I kind of know how this works. So if you want me to take it, I'd be happy to. Otherwise, if you guys want to kind of explain what's going on here. But before I get into the technical kind of nitty gritty of what users see and how this kind of plays out in front of them, what are your thoughts on this from a security standpoint? What are your thoughts?
Well, we've been seeing this on the personal Microsoft account side for at least 5 years. You said you heard somebody say it 5 years ago. My personal account, like my Xbox account, does it still have a password? Yes, but I've been able to log in without a password forever. And there's always been an option to just go and add a password. I have read that there's an option with this where if you're an existing, you can just delete your password and it'll start using that, the passwordless. I don't want to steal your thunder there, but to me, what I'm excited about, this is part of a bigger picture that I've been wanting them to see, wanting them to do, and I know they've been moving towards for a couple of years, and that's this whole idea of a trusted device, where you have a trusted device both in your hand as a phone, an Intune registered device that you're using. But if we stick with trusted devices, it's not this simple, but if we stick with trusted devices, then we can lower our attack service, because somebody can't sign in from Serbia because they got a token out of from a coffee shop or whatever off of a unsuspecting victim. But so I'm glad to see this move, is I guess what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like the biometric aspect of it. They kind of picked their head up out of the sand. They looked around and they said, everybody's got these devices in their pockets that have the biometrics built in. Take advantage of that, right? And we can prove that it's that person without the need for passwords and things like that. So, Andre, any thoughts on this?
So how could then, like in 2 years from now, how is the bad guy going to figure this out? That's what I'm thinking now. Because right now we have two form factor, meaning the first form is your password, the second form is your phone. Now it looks like we're just going back to one way. I won't use the one form
No, not really, because the biometrics is two ways. It's you're geolocated, and then you have like two-factor is essentially something that you are and something that you like. So if you have the phone and you have biometrics, that's one, and you have the geo, that's two.
Okay.
So you're getting rid of like passwords and codes, and you're going to biometrics and geolocation.
But you also have the phone as a trusted device itself. Correct. So you can't just be in USA and have the right password. It's also on a known trusted phone. Yeah, it's good.
Right.
Got it. All right. So if Microsoft starts it, I guess it trickles down to everybody else eventually, right?
Hopefully, we'll see where it goes. We'll see how it plays out. But one of the questions I had is a little bit along the lines of where you were going with this, Andre, and we quickly, pontificate whether this is even a thing. But I just think about like this kinds of stuff, collection of biometric data, and we just had 23andMe kind of play out, right? So that's any concern there with that side of it, where our fingerprints or our picture of our face gets stolen because Microsoft had a breach or some third-party company that had access to this and stored it all in a way that wasn't secure. Go ahead, Randy.
Well, in this case, the biometrics is not stored in the cloud. It's not comparing your biometrics with one that's stored in the cloud. It's the device that's responsible for keeping up with your biometrics, and that's where the verification occurs. So what happens if you add like you already have a thumbprint and you add an index? It's going to make you re-verify with Microsoft. At least that's my assumption, assuming that they're doing it on, because then otherwise somebody could just get on your phone when it's unlocked and add their fingerprint, and then you can still get into everything. Most of the things I have that require a password make me re-verify if I add like an extra fingerprint or whatever.
I will follow up with you on this because I'm not sure. I don't think you need to. I'll have to follow up with you.
If your phone doesn't make you do it, then next time
I'm not thinking. I'm thinking about other things and other situations. But I'll get back to you on this one.
Okay.
All right, guys. Anything else? Otherwise, we're moving into our following up segment. And first up to bat is M&S. As we talked about last week, this Marks and Spencer has come out and admitted that there was no cyber attack plan. Ooh, wow. I mean, that's just wild that a company just is like, yep, we had no plan. Because I think a lot of businesses are in that boat, right? They pretend or they kid themselves that like they don't think they need a plan, or if something does happen, they'll muddle their way through it somehow. Staff, as a result of that, no plan is staff spending nights sleeping in offices amid the chaos, working from personal devices and bouncing over to WhatsApp when their Teams was down. Sounds familiar to something that's happening in our country. So anyway, Randy, what's the first thing any organization should do today to ensure a robust business continuity plan?
Gosh, I'm not sure what direction you're asking that question.
Open-ended question for you to pick something out of the air. And
well, okay, so having a disaster recovery plan, having tabletopped through it so you're prepared for it, having an alternate way of communication. So it's not so much having to resort to WhatsApp as much as
Signal,
having to resort to WhatsApp because it didn't have Signal. A plan to resort to that or to something else. Like there's so much here to unpack, and at the end of the day, it gives me a ton of anxiety reading this, because with all this stuff down, that's lost revenues, the lifeblood of a company, and you're liable to see these companies go out of business.
Yeah, and personal devices as part of your incident response plan is a really bad idea, right? So, why I say that? Because a major component of your incident response plans is how are we going to acquire technology in the time that we are down, and the time that the cyber experts are recovering us, because that's probably going to take quite a few weeks, right? And you could implement a disaster recovery plan that involves personal devices, but I highly discourage you not do that, and you look at other alternatives that are a little bit more secure. So meanwhile, guys, this article goes on to state that the co-op confirmed that Dragon Force affiliates stole the names and contact details of millions using scattered spider tactics to dump 20 million records on their extortion site. So, Andre, once this data is confirmed stolen on the dark web, what should an organization do to make sure they properly notify customers and or law enforcement / regulators?
Well, I don't think this organization, M&S, is going to do it because they had no plan. We're talking, just to go back one bit, I did some research. This is a company founded in 1884, $13 billion a year in revenue, 65,000 employees globally. like, I just don't understand how they did not have a plan. I mean, they were basically paranoid. They didn't have any type of solution, thinking that, like, are these guys even still in our system? So just going back to even that AI tool that we talked about earlier, a couple of articles ago, where this is where you put in your plan. We are a grocery and pharmacy, type company. People put in their phone numbers to get points. People come to our pharmacy and we have this information. What should we do if we get hacked? I mean, you can prompt that in ChatGPT and just say, and it's going to tell you,
But you got to care first. You got to care.
Yeah.
Like, and I just see so many businesses that don't give a shit. Like, they're like, it ain't going to happen to us. Why are we going to spend this money on this?
Yep.
Just give us help desk and teach us AI and, like, give us, keep us secure. Don't get us hacked either. But we don't want to spend money on it.
And
That's literally conversations I have on a weekly fucking basis with people. So there's Randy.
So this is an opportunity. I mean, somebody in this space, because you've got the two big players in the UK that are struggling with this right now. Somebody in this space is going to come forth and be a technology first, secure business, and is going to see that as part of moving forward in the year 2025.
All right, and it doesn't end there, guys. And I want to move this along because this story is ever unfolding. And of course, the cockroaches come in after the blast, and the UK's National Cybersecurity Centre warns of criminals impersonating help desks to reset passwords after these retail attacks.
Mm-hmm.
It's, of course, an insidious but very common social engineering tactic that bypasses technical controls. So what am I talking about here? One of you guys want to clue us in on, like, what these kind of, as I call them, cockroaches do? They come in after the fact and, they kind of look for victims, right, Randy? So what happens here?
I mean, we saw that with the car dealerships being down last summer. Yeah. People calling, and that this is how Scattered Spider, that's one of their known attack vectors, is they've got young people working for them that speak amazing English and can call in and say, I lost a password, I need a reset or whatever. But these cockroaches that you're calling them that come in after the fact, they take advantage of the chaos that's going on. We already read people sleeping in the office, because of trying to get out of this cyber attack. But they take advantage of that chaos, the lack of communication, and they do the same thing. They call in to get a password reset or whatever, or they call to claim to help you. What we saw last summer, they claimed to be support from the dealership software, and they were trying to get people on a call with them where they could remote into your computer and fix it and all of that jazz, basically to extort more money out of you.
What did we just see with Signal, right? With the government. So imagine now the bad guys know that they're using WhatsApp, and they say, hey, add me to the WhatsApp group for the incident response. And they see everything that's happening.
Yep.
That's all right, guys. We got two more topics to kind of blow through here. I'm going to kind of do them at the same time. First one is an update on this Cobb County data leak. Out in Georgia in March, Cobb County refused to pay the ransom to the Killen Group, who leaked autopsy photos and 400,000 documents, threatening release of 400,000 more unless paid. Though so far, no confirmed harm to residents has occurred as a result of this. But here we go, as we see a county decide to, hey, we're not going to pay the ransom. And now we have autopsy photos, among many other things. I mean, that's what we know about right now. Over time, we're going to find out that there's definitely more. And then right along with that, another major attack that happened in the last couple of weeks here in the U.S. is this DaVita. Mm-hmm. And the update there is they activated their incident response plan after Interlock ransomware group encrypted parts of its network. They stole over 1.5 terabytes of data so far. across 700,000 files of patient insurance and financial data, even as the company kept clinics running under contingency plans. That's kind of the report from the company. But a massive amount of data stolen in both attacks here, guys. Thoughts?
Cobb County paid a ransom, 400,000 documents of sensitive information. That's not
They paid
right.
it or they didn't?
No, I'm saying they need to pay it. They need to pay it. It's not right. 400,000 documents.
Is it too late though at this point? Right, it's out. Right, so I mean that's what we're seeing, unfortunately. Right, these organizations are deciding, hey, we're not going to pay this ransom and we're not going to negotiate, which is a choice you can make. But the result of that is all this information ends up in the hands of people on the dark web, and it's cyber criminals, it's the public, it's everybody. The dark web is just another spot on the internet. It just takes a different browser, and you want to be a little bit, more, a little bit secure about how you access things in that part of the internet, right? You just don't want to open up your browser and start clicking around. But it really, at the end of the day, it's no different than the surface web. And you can access information, get information, and share information the same way. And that's what's happening in that part of the internet with all this stuff. So it's not very hard to get to. So if you really wanted to get to these 400 documents, you could do it in about 30 minutes to 45 minutes by watching a YouTube video if you know absolutely nothing about it right now. So, all right, guys, that's about it. DeVita, Cobb County, all in trouble. That's the show for this week. I appreciate your insights. Remember, we're here to educate you, bring awareness to these incidents that are happening and unfolding right before our very eyes every week. The incidents that we reported on this week happened basically in the last 30 days or so, and there were plenty of them. We have close to an hour of content here that we've shared with you, given our expert insight. So if you learned anything on the show today, we ask that you share out the show, hit that like button, subscribe to us if you're watching us on YouTube, and leave us a review wherever you might listen to us on the audio format and on our podcast. So appreciate the support. We'll see everyone next week. And please, we ask you, as soon as it's released, check out our podcast called Scale AI Podcast. We will also be on YouTube. Website's what? Scale AI. Do we have a website? I don't think we have a website yet. But check us out, Scale AI Podcast. I'm sure if you Google it, we'll show up there eventually. Take care, everyone. We'll see you in the next episode.
Bye, everybody.